Welcome to the Purple Jaguar. And we're back. We're back after week 18 in the NFL. Man, that was a stinker of a weekend. There was a few games that were competitive. I thoroughly enjoyed watching the Lions beat the Packers. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Unfortunately, the Seattle Seahawks were able to kick a field goal in the overtime and secure the 7th seed of the playoffs, which matters little. And we'll find out once again this year that a 7th seed was not needed. A lot to talk about. I was going to wait until after the championship game to do a podcast, but seems how it is 38 Georgia to 7 TCU at halftime. I don't think that game's going to be necessarily something to talk about. Georgia's going to dominate, as they always do, and TCU's Cinderella story will come to an end. But what I would like to talk about is the upcoming games. I want to give you my first predictions out the gate, and we're going to stick with these predictions. I want to be consistent and honest with my opinions first and foremost. And I think this wild card weekend has some upsets, but also there's some moments that are going to come out of it. So let's start off with the first game on the slate, which is at Saturday at 4:30 Eastern time. It's going to be the Seahawks versus the 49ers. And this is one of those games. The line is 10 points. Obviously, the 49ers will be at home. And I just think it's going to be another blowout. 49ers have handled the Seahawks quite well this year in both their meetings, and I think they'll do it again. The Seahawks were on a downward trend. They had lost 5 games in a row going into Sunday. They pulled one out in overtime against the LA Rams with Baker Mayfield, and Baker Mayfield didn't have his favorite receiver in that game. Threw an interception in overtime that was supposed to go to Van Jefferson. They kicked a field goal, and they secure that win. But the 49ers are going to make this playoff run very short. And for the Seahawks, it's still kudos because after trading Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos and having a quarterback, in quotation marks, controversy with Geno Smith and Drew Lock, Geno Smith provided a very, very up year for the Seahawks. They hit a home run with their draft picks. We got a lot of production out of them. They have more draft picks coming. So I feel like the Seahawks are on the rise, and it might not be this year. They might have an early exit out of the playoffs this year, but I think next year they will be able to make some noise, and moving forward, they're in a good position. So that's the first game. I'll say scores. I'm going to do another video on Friday where I'll put out my scores and then key players. This is just going to be my prediction of who's going to win. Next game, we have the Chargers and the Jaguars Saturday night. Now, this is a prime time spot, and I really, really like this game this weekend. I think it's going to be a very competitive game. Unfortunately, the Chargers had a couple of their starters nicked up in the last game of the season. There's some controversy among people about whether or not Brandon Staley should have played these players that are prone to injury in the final game because it was meaningless. So we'll see what's going on with Mike Williams. We'll see if he's able to go. Joey Bosa came out of the game, but I think that was just due to he got a little nicked up, and it was also time for him to leave the game. But first and foremost, I'm going to say that I like the Chargers in this game. Now, you could take either team. I think this is a true blue pick'em. It's the Chargers are favored by 1 point. I like the Chargers because I like the talent of the Chargers. I think that they have a better offense with better offensive weapons, and I think that they have more star power on defense. And that if Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack play to what their contract is paying them, Trevor Lawrence could have a very long evening. With that being said, I do think it will be a close contest, and I think it will come down to which of these two quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence or Justin Herbert, which of them will be able to overcome their playoff jitters. This will be a first playoff game for both quarterbacks, and it'll be interesting to see who can overcome the playoff jitters first. And whoever does, I think, will come out on top. So I'm going to predict that the Chargers, because of their star power, they have a savvy wide receiver in Keenan Allen who has been here and done that a little bit in his career. I think they'll be able to settle down and they'll be able to win this game. With that being said, let's move on to the Sunday slate. Now, the first game on Sunday is, again, another duh. We have the 7th-seeded Dolphins playing the 2nd-seeded Bills. And by all intents and purposes, the Bills played well enough to be the first seed in the AFC. However, they are not going to have to play a game on the road. If they end up playing the Chiefs in the AFC Conference Championship, it will be at a neutral field to not disadvantage the Buffalo Bills, because they did have the same record as the Chiefs before they had to cancel that game with the Bengals due to the Damar Hamlin injury. And Damar Hamlin is doing fantastic. He has been moved now to a Buffalo medical facility. They're continuing to watch him, but he has been able to walk on his own. They say he is progressing very well. He was even watching the game and rooting for the Buffalo Bills. And reports say that he jumped up when they ran back that first opening kickoff, which is awesome. Storybook ending, if you will, to the worry for Damar Hamlin. It sounds like he's going to be out of the woods soon. And that is just an awesome story. And hopefully the Buffalo Bills will play with that energy and play with that passion and enthusiasm throughout these playoffs, and they'll be able to make a deep playoff run. Now, unfortunately for the Dolphins, they don't know if they're going to start Thompson or Teddy Bridgewater. They have no idea. They might ask a guy off the side of the road if he can play quarterback for them. Tyreek Hill came out of the game last week, so we're watching his injury to see if he's going to be able to play next Sunday. If he's not playing, I don't think the Dolphins have a chance. And you know where in this game, I really don't believe they have a chance regardless, due to the fact that they don't even have somebody who can toss the ball 5 yards to these electric receivers. So I am thinking it's going to be a Buffalo blowout. Crazier things have happened, but I'm choosing Buffalo, who are also favored by 10.5 points. The next game is an interesting one. And it seems like they were able to kind of like definitely put these games in a way to where you might watch a team get blown out and then you're going to watch a competitive game, and then you're going to watch a team get blown out and then you're going to be able to watch a competitive game. So the next game is going to be the Giants and Vikings. Now, the Vikings are puttering. And that's a nice way of saying I don't think that they're going to win this game. I think the Giants are going to be able to go into the Vikings facility and they're going to take their lunch money. They're going to take it to them. They're going to pound the football. They're going to run for over 200 yards. And I think the Giants are going to pull out an upset. Now, I'm not going to say what the score is. I think the score is going to be. They have Minnesota favored by 3, but that is more in part, I think, due to the record, not the reality of what Minnesota has turned into recently. Anytime Minnesota has played a competent, competitive opponent, they have found a way to shrink in the moment. And the Giants recently as a month ago, were able to take the Vikings to the brink. They lost that game 24-27, which I think gives them a lot of confidence. And Brian Daboll, who is my vote for Coach of the Year and many others, rested all of his key players on Sunday, knowing that it was going to be a meaningless game. And I think they're going to be ready to go and take it to the Vikings next weekend. So I look forward to that game. That is going to be a definite tune-in for me. And I think the Giants are going to get the game. I think they're going to win. Next is the Ravens and Bengals. There's a lot to say about this game, but not a lot to say. I think the Bengals are going to win. I think the Bengals are going to win by at least a touchdown. And I think that the Ravens need to figure out what they're going to do with Lamar Jackson. I do not think Lamar Jackson is going to suit up for this game. He has not practiced. He was projected to be able to start practicing and play after December 24th. He is yet to make real contact with the team. He is yet to practice. And I think it's all in part due to the contract talks that fell apart over the offseason. And with the sprain to his PCL and his knee, Lamar Jackson probably decided to hang it up for the year, because it's hard to ask a running quarterback who is going to be prone to injury to play with no guarantee of a contract. And I think that the relationship is now deteriorated to a point where I would not be surprised to see Lamar Jackson move from the Ravens this offseason. I do not know if they can franchise tag him, but I just think that would be a fantastic mistake by the Ravens, because I think it would be prolonging the inevitable, and that is they don't want to pay him. They do not want to pay him. They don't want to pay him Russell Wilson money. They do not want to stake that much into Lamar Jackson. Now, unfortunately, I don't think that's fair to Lamar Jackson. He is a MVP, and he is the heart and soul of their offense. But the Ravens have always been known for being cheap when it comes to their quarterback. So, this playoff game against the Bengals are the hottest team in the NFL outside of the 49ers. The Bengals are the most complete team in these AFC playoffs. They have a solid defense. They have a fantastic defensive coordinator. They have the most talented wide receiver core in the league. I think the Bengals remind me a lot of the Thunder, the OKC Thunder, back when they had Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Serge Ibaka. They have all these young players on rookie contracts, and they have so much talent that I think it would be very unfortunate if they weren't able to get a Super Bowl in this very short time frame that they have. Eventually, these receivers are going to want to get paid. I don't see where you're going to be able to keep T. Higgins and Jamar Chase on the same team if they are wanting market value for their contracts. I don't know how you're going to be able to pay Joe Burrow and keep two of these wide receivers, let alone all three. So I think Cincinnati, it is their time. I don't foresee them going home in the first round. I think that they will take care of business. They'll take care of the Ravens. I believe that Tyler Huntley is going to start for the Ravens this weekend, because I do not foresee Lamar Jackson suiting up again for the Ravens this year. So that's that game. And then Monday night. Monday Night Football. They're going to do this. They're going to do this in front of the whole world. They're going to put a standalone Monday night game. They're going to put the Dallas Cowboys, coming off the worst loss of their entire season, they're going to put them on prime time Monday Night Football. I am so excited. So excited. Against Tom Brady. And you're thinking, Tom Brady. I'm talking 45-year-old Tom Brady, who just threw for the most completions in a single season, breaking his own record this year. I bet that arm is tired. And they have zero run game. Zero. They cannot run the ball. And it is setting the Cowboys up for one of two things to happen. Either the Cowboys are going to beat the tar out of these Buccaneers and really make Tom Brady contemplate where he wants to play football next year, or they are going to have one of the most epic collapses in Cowboys history. And you know what I think is going to happen? I think they're going to beat the Buccaneers. I do. I think the Cowboys are going to win this game. I do not foresee the Buccaneers being able to create enough offense. Now, could the Cowboys completely implode like they did this last weekend against the Commanders? Sure. They could. But I don't see that happening twice in a row. I don't see their punter dropping the ball, giving the other team a short field. I don't see Dak Prescott, as many interceptions as he's thrown, I don't see him throwing 2 interceptions pretty much back to back, one being dropped and one being returned for a touchdown. I don't foresee their punt returner, who is one of the top in the league, whiffing on a fair catch and letting the ball fall right into the opponent's hands. I just don't see all this stuff happening back-to-back weeks. So I do think the Cowboys are going to be able to take care of business. I think that they are going to give them a heavy dose of Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. I think Dak Prescott's going to be asked to throw the ball 28 to 32 times. He's going to complete 66% of his passes. He's going to throw for about 250 yards, maybe 300, to keep that Tampa Bay defense honest. And I think they're going to run over these Buccaneers, who, by all rights, don't really deserve to be in these playoffs. I mean, if we played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Detroit Lions last night and said, winner gets the 7th seed in the playoffs, gets to be in the playoffs, let's just throw that out there. I think the Lions are beating them. I think the Packers are beating them. I don't know about the Seahawks, but I think the Lions or Packers are beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a win and get in scenario. I think the Buccaneers have been able to beat up on a very suspect division. I mean, the closest team to them in that division was the Carolina Panthers. So I don't think they deserve to be in the playoffs. I don't foresee them being able to beat the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are going to be able to go into Tampa Bay, handle business, and survive 1 week in the playoffs. Now, that wraps up our playoff predictions for the Super Wild Card weekend. In other news, we have Cliff Kingsbury getting fired. We have Lovie Smith getting fired. We have the Bears get the number 1 overall draft pick. I'm thinking they're going to trade it for what I don't know. Probably to a team that's desperate for a quarterback. I think the Bears have found their franchise quarterback in Justin Fields. I think they're going to roll with him. So I think they're going to trade that pick for maybe a player and some picks. It's always tough when you watch a coach get fired, especially when you look at the situation that they're in. With Lovie Smith, I think that he got the Texans to rally, to play hard-nosed football, to give it all they have every week. I think he did a good job with very little talent. And I don't think he got a fair shake at the deal, unfortunately. And to me, I was kind of shocked to see him fired because the Texans have now fired 2 coaches in the last 2 seasons, and they've given them very little to work with. Davis Mills was their starting quarterback, and then they did this whole 2 quarterback thing. And every week they came out there and they played good competitive football. So I was not happy to see Lovie Smith fired. Cliff Kingsbury was unproven when he got the coaching job in Arizona. He was handed the coaching job with a lot of talent on the roster. Unfortunately, he's not going to win when it comes to a quarterback like Kyler Murray that's paid the amount that he's paid. Kyler Murray had the issues with the focus, lack of, watching film, being attentive, lack of leadership. And I think Cliff Kingsbury got the raw deal because he's blamed for their tumultuous relationship. I don't know what his next move is, but I do have pity on the next coach that comes into Arizona and tries to coach that team. There's going to be Broncos are going to be looking for a coach. If the Chargers lose, whispers are they might fire Coach Brandon Staley. And I think that is a fantastic job for Jim Harbaugh or Sean Payton if they're looking for a coaching job. I don't think the Jets are going to fire Robert Saleh. I think that he took that defense that was in the bottom part of the league and made them in the top 5 in pretty much every category of defense. So he is a fantastic defensive head coach. Now, they do need to find a quarterback. How they go about doing that is up to them. There's whispers that Derek Carr, they might go after him. There's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo potentially. I don't think Tom Brady will play for the New York Jets, but he's going to be on the market as well. They could also draft one. I wouldn't even be opposed, hot take, to seeing Baker Mayfield in a Jets uniform. I don't think that's a bad thing. That is a hot take. I've not heard that anywhere. And I'm telling you right now, the way Baker Mayfield was able to play football for the LA Rams, I think he has the arm strength. He's going to have the receiving core. They're going to have a running back that's fantastic. That running back was going to win offensive rookie of the player of the year before he went down. I would love to see Baker Mayfield get a call from the Jets. I think he could run that team. I think if he went up there and he played his B football, I think Baker Mayfield can make that Jets team pretty dangerous. And you heard that here first. That's a hot take right there. So that is how we're going to wrap up this first podcast of the week. I look forward to my Friday where I pick the key players and I pick the scores of each game. We'll be keeping our heads down for any news coming through this week. And thank you so much for listening. Again, you can find me at Nebula719M on Twitter, and then Nebula 2Ls Media on YouTube. Leave a comment or tweet me if you'd like to hear something talked about. Thank you again for the listen, and have a fantastic week.